on Sactown Sports.
You know, the A's have a long history with our station, and if you go back to the Moneyball days, our next guest used to be on once a week with us on the morning show here when we were Sports 1140. He's one of the nicest gentlemen I've ever had the pleasure to meet in sports broadcasting. And of course, he's a great broadcaster. We welcome Ken Korach back to the show. How are you today, Ken?
I remember those days fondly. I really do. I was really look forward to that every week.
Yes. Well, we're thrilled that you're with us here. Ken, isn't it amazing? The A's this year obviously haven't won as many games as they'd like, but last night, a great example for a team that hasn't won as much as they'd like. They have produced some incredible highlights, have they not?
They have, and especially with the play in center field by Denzel Clark, as you know, and you can't take back what happened earlier this year when they had that really tough stretch when they went 1-20. But beside that, they've actually played pretty good this year. So, and I do believe that they're building a foundation for future success. The other day, they had 7 players on the field whom they drafted. So the farm system and the scouting and player development, I think they've done a really good job with this group.
Voice of the A's, Ken Korach, joining us. Ken, can you just speak, continue to talk about just the young talent on this team, whether it's, the all-star Jacob Wilson, you got Soderstrom, you also mentioned Denzel, throughout the record, there's some really good baseball being played with these guys out there.
Yeah, there's no question about it. That's what I was saying too. I think with maybe an infusion of pitching, and that's been the biggest issue this year. The bullpen struggled for a long time. The starting pitching has been much better recently, especially with Jeffrey Springs last night getting his 7th win and lowering his ERA under 4. But yeah, I mean, you mentioned Wilson. Now he's not in there tonight. He's dealing with that hand contusion after being hit by a pitch. Lawrence Butler is an electric player. Nothing more exciting, I think, than calling an inside the park home run. And then Nick Kurtz has only played 53 major league games. A year ago, he was just finishing up at Wake Forest and beginning his major league career after the draft. And he has 14 homers and 39 RBIs. So it's a pretty exciting time to be out here and watching these guys grow.
Kyle, you being a professional broadcaster, you appreciate this. Years ago, I was on the A's flagship, and Ken would come on with us there. And Dan Dibley and I, one time, we were trying to convince him on the air to go with he will watch it fly as his signature, trademark call. And Ken said, I don't have one. I'm a broadcaster. If it's appropriate, I will say it. So anyway, Ken, I was glad to hear you drop one last night.
Well, you deserve all the credit for that. I never, because that's one, and I've been doing this for 1,000 years, of course, but people always used to ask, what's your home run call? And I would say, just what you said. I said, well, it's kind of whatever happens. I'd rather it be spontaneous than have something that seems contrived. And then after I wrote the Bill King book, because I'd said like watch it fly a few times, I think, before that. And then when people would ask me to sign the book, and they would say, can you write watch it fly along with your signature? And then I thought, well, maybe there might be some people who think this is kind of cool. So I kind of stuck, I kind of latched onto it after that.
Awesome.
Yeah, it has to happen organically, right? You can't just be in your hotel room trying to think of it in the mirror. It
sounds like you've done that.
Yeah, no, I thought about doing that.
Exactly.
But everything is organic, and I get it. When I look at this A's roster, I want to start, I guess, with Jacob Wilson. You talked about him not being in the lineup tonight because of the hand contusion, but just how good can this kid be? Obviously, an all-star this season. Just what do you see in this young kid when you watch him night in and night out?
Well, if he gets better, he's going to be a 400 hitter. I'm not sure how much better.
Right.
He's really been a remarkable story. And he's still number 2 in the American League in batting and also in hits behind Aaron Judge. And he has incredible bat-to-ball skills. They talk about that, hand-eye coordination. He uses the whole field. And I think what's happened recently for him is he's not seeing any good pitches to hit. So I think he's a guy that he gets hits on bad balls for sure. He's got a lot of hits on pitches that I think other people may not have swung at, but I think he has to adjust to that. The fact that especially pitches that are inside, up and in, well off the plate. So like any young player, you have to make those adjustments, but he's really been special to watch. And then to think of, I give baseball fans a lot of credit for voting him into the All-Star game, because it's not that easy for the A's to get somebody voted in. And then you go back to the long and great history of the club. He'll be the first starting shortstop in the All-Star game literally in 50 years to the day. Campy Campaneris back in 75.
Wow. The great Ken Korach, nice enough to join us. Ken, with all the distractions that have swirled around the team over the last couple of years, how impressed are you with Mark Kotze's ability to keep everybody on the same page?
That's a great question. And he's really been kind of the embodiment of what you would want in a manager, because he's also had to become the spokesman for the franchise on many occasions. And you'll recall how wonderful it was and how emotional and poignant it was when he took the microphone and went out on the field at the Coliseum after the last game last year. So he's a very steady guy. I think he's really grown into the role. So people really respect him too. And I think you have to have a combination of leadership amongst your players, but leadership with your manager. And the other thing that's helped is that they've had a lot of consistency with the staff. So there hasn't been a lot of turnover. So when it comes to some of the instruction, because with a young club, there are many teaching moments that go on almost night after night. So they've had a lot of consistency from that standpoint too.
Ken Korach joining us. Ken, I wanted to ask you also about Lawrence Butler, signed a contract before the season. Got off to a sort of a slow start. Seems like, in July, the bat has come alive for him. What are you seeing with him this season so far?
Well, he hasn't really caught fire, like you said. Last year he was just incredible. He struggled so much early in the year that the A's sent him down. And then he was just sizzling in July, 10 home runs, 27 RBIs, 8 home runs in August. So I don't think he's gotten hot yet, and yet he has 13 homers, and his on base is about 325 and decent number of stolen bases. So he has great talent, and last night was really special for him. It was his first game against the Braves, and he grew up in Atlanta and was heavily influenced by the baseball culture down there, and especially guys like Marquise Grissom, who took him under his wing. And I guess maybe there's still maybe a long shot if they're looking for replacements in the All-Star game for an outfielder. I don't think he's going to get the call this year, but it would have been really cool for him to make the team and to be able to play in the game next Tuesday down in his hometown.
Ken Korach with us. I know we talked already about how much homegrown talent there is on the A's roster. Incredible that Friday they had homegrown outfield and infield. To that point, how excited are the A's to have Zach Geloff back?
Well, he really, Zach Geloff is an interesting guy, because when he broke in 2 years ago, he was as good as any rookie in baseball over the last 2 months of the season back in 23. Took a little step back last year, and really tough for him this year because he had not played a game in the big leagues until this homestand began. So I don't want to see this linger. He hasn't gotten a hit yet. And that's really tough. It's almost like the beginning of the season for a player when you look up and you see the scoreboard and that batting average is sitting at like 0, 0, 0. If you go 0 for 13 or 14 in the middle of the season, it's really not, you don't want it to happen, but it's not that big a deal. So I think for Zach right now, just to kind of get a boost of confidence, it'd be nice to see him get 2 or 3 hits over the next couple of days.
Hey, Ken, my last question. It's sort of been an up and down season, especially at home. What was the atmosphere, the vibe like this past weekend? I know you got the rival Giants in town, sold out, packed house. How good was that to see just that kind of atmosphere for baseball here?
Well, when you're doing games, you love to see that and feel that. And even last night, I mean, the crowd wasn't a sellout, but there's always been a good feel, a little buzz in the ballpark every night, which as a broadcaster you live for. It didn't bother me, and I expected that there would be more Giants fans than A's fans, and that was the case. But looking around the ballpark and the 3 night games, and not really even just for those games, but when the sun goes down here and there's the reflection of the light off the Tower Bridge, and then in the twilight you the silhouette of the downtown against the sky. This is kind of a pretty cool place to be for evening baseball. So I enjoyed the Giants coming in here. The A's would not have wanted to lose 2 out of 3 like they did, but that kind of stuff happens.
Ken Korach. Ken, it's always a pleasure. We appreciate your time. We hope to talk to you again soon, sir. Thank you.
It's been a lot of fun, you guys. Thanks for all your support over the years, too. Really
Absolutely.
appreciate it.
You got it. Ken Korach.
Ken Korach.
He will watch it fly.